On today's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business, we have Michael Accetta. This is definitely an episode you do not want to miss. He is a breath of fresh air and you will walk away with some amazing tips to start implementing immediately. Hi everybody. Today, I'm really looking forward to today. I feel like we're chatting to a really old friend now, but in an amazing way. So we've got the lovely Michael with us. So for those of you who haven't heard of Michael, you did some training for us, didn't you, in our Let's Talk Dog Business show on our Facebook group?
Yes, it was wonderful. It was a great time.
Wonderful. I like it.
Michael always lifts the mood.
Yeah, Michael's mate. We love Michael and you're going to love him too. And you're going to find out why now. So Michael, tell everybody more about you, what you do, and how we've become to be your new annoying bestie UK friends.
Absolutely. Well, I'm across the pond. I'm in the United States. And I started out my dog business journey doing a lot of virtual training during the COVID pandemic and figuring out how to help people from afar and work out the business and that side of things. And now I help dog business owners who are struggling with that aspect of their business. They are amazing dog trainers. They're wonderful at what they do. They're just struggling with the minutia of the technical side of dog training business where it comes to running things on the back end. And now that's what I do full time and more so that, but still dog training at the same time.
Minutia.
I was just about to say
what an amazing word.
Love a minutia.
Minutia. It's very onomatopoeic. A minutia.
All these big words coming out. You haven't said osmosis today yet.
Osmosis, yeah. I like that word as well.
Oh, fabulous. So all the back end stuff then. So what do you think dog trainers would understand by the back end stuff? Because there's several ways to look at that, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could break it up into three main categories. You have marketing, sales, and operations. So your marketing is how do we get more people into the business and provide the service that we're so good at, which I think many dog trainers struggle with. They're amazing. They have word of mouth down, but how do we do the social media? How do we get leads that want to pay us a lot of money and make sales really easy? If you have an amazing offer, you have an amazing thing that you can do and you can package it in the right way and bring it to the right people, sales becomes a no-brainer. But then how do you take people who maybe need that little push? They need some guidance to get over that hump. And maybe they've been hurt in the past by a trainer who didn't help them as well as they could have. How do you then present your offer through the sales funnel and make it much easier for you on the back end of not having to meet with everybody who's unqualified, but really hone in on help the people who are qualified. And then the operations of making it smoother, faster, more efficient, less waste in ad dollars and maybe having to hire a whole bunch of people who are just standing around twiddling their thumbs, and where you can actually do things in more of a streamlined fashion. I did all of my business completely by myself. So I only have so many hours in a day and I'm a father. So I have to homeschool my son and I got to do this and I got to do that and all these other things that might get in the way of running a successful business. So how can I automate as much as possible? That is the operation side of things. So when it comes to a dog training business, sure, you could just go out and yell at the top of your lungs in a street corner, I train dogs, but you're only going to get so far doing that. You have to master those other aspects, marketing, sales, and operations to really excel, not only start the business off right, but grow and scale the business to what you really want, what you need.
Yeah, amazing.
I was just going to say, so a lot of dog trainers would be scared off by anything tech. Like it's something that really worries a lot of people that we speak to and they don't understand it and they don't know where to start with it. So what would your advice be on simplifying everything so that it can help them understand things a little bit better?
Absolutely. And I'm in the same pocket where when I first started out, very similar to dog trainers in trying to explain dog training to somebody, you know it so well that trying to explain it to somebody else, you're like, how do you not get this? Right? So let's say a dog trainer really understands reactive dogs and they start talking to someone. They're like, yeah, your dog's fear aggressive and they're reactive and all this other stuff. And the person's like so confused and I have no idea what you're talking about. If they boil it down to the simplest terms and say your dog just doesn't know what to do, we have to clarify what they should be doing in those scenarios and help them habitualize to the situation. Even that word, habitualize it, that's too big. We need to make it easier. Hey, your dog just needs to know that this is normal and they don't need to freak out. So if we can go back to the way we were before we understood dog training at a deep level and try to break it down to explain to other people, we need to do the exact same thing, almost in reverse, when it comes to the tech side of things. So knowing more is definitely going to help, but the confidence only comes through successful repetition. So the first thing you have to do is start. You have to go, okay, I know nothing of what I'm doing, and I'm just going to build it out. I built my first website when I was 16 years old, and it was terrible. I built the next website when I was 18, and then again and again and again and again. And I got to the point where I can whip up a website in about a day or so. So that takes a really long time to do. And there's so many other facets to it that you don't necessarily have to understand to start. But for those who are struggling and they have no idea where to start, the easiest thing is to get out a pen and paper and just write down where your ideal person is currently and where you would like to get them to. So if your ideal person, your ideal client is taking their dog to the dog park, which dog parks are crazy and all over the place, and people just go because they're trying to get their dog's energy out because they don't know how to solve certain problems. Well, the first thing you need to do is maybe go to the dog park and see if you can engage with people. I did that early on in the beginning. I would go to the dog park. I stood up on this big rock in the middle of the park and I just yelled my name. I was like, hi, my name's Michael Accetta. I train dogs. If you want anything, I'm going to be over there for the next 10 minutes. And I would just hang out there and people would come over and ask me questions and whatnot. And that was the first thing that I did. So I said, where are my ideal people and where do I want them to go? Well, I want them to train with me. Cool. So what are the pieces along the way that they need to do? First, they need to know who I am and what I do. So I tell them, my name is Michael. I train dogs. I'm going to be over there. You can ask me questions in a little bit. Then during that conversation, I need to tell them more about what I do and the process of how I can get them the result that they want. But I need to know what their problem is. All of this to say, this whole journey I call the client adventure map is a guided process to get them from where they are to where you want them to go. And then you worry about putting it online and making it into a funnel, making it into, well, my people are on social media and I want to show them that I have what they're looking for, but I need to know what they're looking for first, right? I can't just go make something up and say, hey, I train X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, I have to say I help people who are really busy, but they want to be able to do cool stuff with their dog. So I make content about that. Then they're interested a little bit more. They know who I am. I've built rapport, and then I can work them along the way. But again, I don't want to get too crazy into the nitty-gritty unless you want to. But the map is really where people need to start. They have to write down what the journey is from where their ideal people are to where they want to go, and then figure out how to get it online. And you could freelance people, you could hire people to do that. But that map is the really important part. If you don't have that, no fancy website, no running ads, none of that's going to work. And it's what I wasted the first year and a half of my business on. I was trying to do all the other stuff, the fancy stuff, the branding, the colors, merchandise, all of this stuff. And I didn't have the map laid out. And so that's where I tell people to start with now.
Do you know, that's so important, isn't it, for you to be saying that, because this is the message that we're trying to get across.
Yeah, we harp on about it all the time.
All the time, yeah.
You can't possibly attract people if A, you don't know who your clients are. Like, you can't even start the map. You can't even begin looking for them if you don't know who they are. And then that stems back to, what's the purpose of your business? What are you actually trying to achieve? What's your niche? What's your special superpower that you've got? And then how do you want to execute that? Then, yeah, exactly like you say, I love the fact I can actually see you standing in a park and screaming that. I love it.
I'd got a vision in my head of you doing it and having that big smile on your face, which you've got right now, if anyone's watching this.
It's great. I actually challenge people to do it. I feel like we should try this. I want to do it, and I film it and we'll send it to you.
Hannah, we had a guest recently, Hannah Malloy, who's a dog trainer, and she did something similar. Yeah. She was going to parks and just shouting out, who wants my help? And it worked really well for her, didn't it? Yeah. So maybe this is the strategy.
It's the power of that. Like I said, it's identifying that journey, isn't it? And going like, where are you, people out there? Because we've had so many people say this week, actually, like, oh, I've got no inquiries. There's not enough leads coming in. The sales are drying up, and it's really difficult when you're in that position, isn't it? Because we've all been there. We've all had that feeling. But it's really hard to articulate and almost truly understand that you are never going to get those leads and inquiries if you haven't done this pre-work bit first. It just can't work.
No.
Or if it does, it's a bit of fluke. It's a bit of chance. And you may attract some people and you may get some money, but it's not a sustainable thing then, is it?
Well, I love what Alex Hormozi says, which I know we've talked about Alex Hormozi in the past. He says there's 3 things you can do every day to get clients. And this is what I check off first thing in the morning. I either make some type of content, I either reach out to some type of people, or I run ads. Those are the 3. If you don't know what to do, you have no business coming in, no one's filling out your forms, you don't have anybody to message, you either make content and post it, you either start running ads if you have money. If you don't, then you can't do that. And the last thing is to just reach out to people, go on to social media. I used to, every day, I'd go through my entire email list and my phone list, and I would just start talking to people. You don't have to sound weird about it. Hey, you want to buy this thing? Like, that's weird. Just say, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Do you know anybody who's looking for this service? This is what I do now. And then they go, why didn't you ask me? And they almost feel obligated to say that they need some kind of help,
feel
right?
left out.
Those are the 3 things that you can do if you're in that position where you don't have any clients and you're not busy. You want to stack that calendar as best you can. So find something to do. One of those 3.
This week for us, I find that the stars are just really weirdly aligning this week, because we were at our business mastermind yesterday and we were talking all about Alex Hormozi and the ways that he recommends getting clients, and it's exactly that. And like, you're now talking about it today, and it's just really strange.
But we do it all the time, don't we? Like, every day we make a conscious effort to go, right, who can we talk to? Yeah. It's a conversation. Everything starts with a conversation, and you never know where it's going to lead. Some of our biggest months actually have been off the back of conversations with existing clients that have already invested money with us, and then we've spotted somewhere that they're really struggling and gone, do you know what, we can help you out a bit more with that. So there's an additional fee. Here it is. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, cool, I'm in, because then there's that know, like, and trust relationship. But it starts off with a conversation.
Yeah. And we often liken it, and you probably do this as well, to when you start a relationship with somebody, you don't just go straight in. You've got to build a little bit of rapport with somebody. You've got to get to know them, get a feel for them, see whether you like them, see whether they like you back, and look at it a bit like dating.
Absolutely. And I learned this many, many years ago, and it served me very well. Theodore Roosevelt was considered one of the best conversationalists as a president. And it was because the day before he was meeting with somebody, he would learn as much as he possibly could about their topic of expertise and then ask them questions all day. So people would walk away going, oh my God, he was amazing. He was a great conversationalist. Be like, oh, what'd you talk about? And they would think about it and they would go, not much about him, but I talked a whole bunch. And they just felt heard and listened to, because that's what we all want. So whenever I'm engaging with somebody new, I want to hear more about them and what their story is. Now, that also serves you in business and sales, because you need to know what experiences they're going through. What have they struggled with in the past? Have they had bad experiences? What have they tried and hasn't worked? Maybe they had an older dog and now they have a puppy, and what they did last time is not working anymore. Well, something's changed, right? Clearly, it's a different dog. Maybe the methods they're remembering aren't the same methods that they used, or any number of things. So you have to find those out, and then you can tailor your service to their specific needs, which makes it 10 times better. If you're giving a cookie cutter mold to somebody, they're going to be lost. They're going to be, oh, this isn't really for me, and they're going to go find something else. But if you can tailor, even if you have a formula of your training program, you can tailor it specifically to them, they're going to feel that much more heard and listened to.
Yeah.
So true.
And it's really interesting because we hear a lot of feedback about people saying, well, how do you have time to have conversations with people? How do you have time to reach out to people? But the way we look at that is that we're going to build a really great relationship with that person if we start off on that foot, rather than just going, I'm going to grab as many people as I can, and then they're not that great quality. So it's a really nice way to like look at that nurturing kind of relationship as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. You want to have a deep pool of good relationships, which statistics say you can have around 150 to 200 really good relationships before things start to fall off. So you only need about 150 really deep relationships in order for things to work out for you. You don't need millions and millions of followers. And I was thinking about this morning when I was taking the dogs out, I was thinking about niches, and I keep hearing people talk about you have to niche down, niche down, niche down, niche down. What ends up happening is you're so niche down that 10 people know who you are. So you kind of have to bounce back and forth where you niche open, get a bunch of attention from people in that general circle, let's say dog business, and then you bring it down to dog business trainers or dog business merchandise or whatever it may be. But same thing in terms of dog training, right? So it's people who own dogs. Well, is it busy dog owners? Is it new dog owners? Is it young dog owners or old dog owners or rescue dog owners, whatever it may be? So we reach out to these big people or big groups, and then we consolidate afterwards. But you need that attention first, and then you can kind of filter out the right people for you.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It just comes back down to, again, doesn't it? It's like you need to know what the purpose of your bloody business is in the first place. Because like, yes, I would say arguably every dog trainer goes, yep, I'm just going to go out to dog owners everywhere. And we're like, awesome.
Now what?
And you so are you going to take on, I don't know, like aggressive cases? Are you going to take on separation anxiety? I hate separation anxiety.
Yeah,
I can't deal with it myself.
Someone's got to do it really well.
Someone's got to do
The
it.
three of us don't.
It's like, no,
it's not for us.
If you're
Somebody else
listening,
can
that's
have
the
it.
pocket. Master that, and people will pay you a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, just take it. But you know what I mean? Like, but we'll actively say, like, I do not want that. So if someone's inquiring with it, I'm going, nope, that's not for me. Go to this person here. It's not my bag. Don't want to do it. Aggression. I'll take it. I like it. It's interesting. We're good at it. Anything else? It's like, but again, like we had to think, because we've been having this conversation a lot recently with some of our clients, and some really respond well to a niche in terms of, you know, we all have it, don't we? We all have like a preference of a type of dog we either like working with or a type of case. And some people can segment it in terms of, I'll just do puppy, like puppy's totally my bag, or aggression, I'll quite happily take those. But then you've got these people that kind of fall in a broader category, let's say. And I would say I'm one of these, because I quite like working puppy, but I also quite like working aggression. So from a marketing point of view on what was my old business now, I looked at it more from actually, I want to educate you as the human. So the human becomes my target audience. And that's ultimately my segment, my niche area, going, that's where I'm aiming. So only reach out if you want to truly understand the inner workings of your dog and how you can almost change your behavior to have a better relationship with your dog, which will therefore impact your relationship with other human beings. And that was my messaging. And then everybody I attracted, I was like, awesome, I can chat about psychology all day long. I love it. And we get some really cool results with the dogs.
Yeah, you'd also get people that came to you saying, oh, I saw your website and I really like the fact that we get to learn about the dogs and we get to find out all this geeky stuff. And you know straight away you've got the right person then. Yeah.
And then ultimately you're going to turn off the right people for you as well. Because it's like, well, actually, I don't want to work with anyone who's not going to, because I know it's my natural personality to lean into those conversations. So even though, yes, I believe it or not, I can actually shut up and just train the dog, but I don't like shutting up.
Can you believe that?
I like talking to people. So I need to actually deter the people that don't like talking away from me, because I'm naturally going to slip into it. So I think you have to have a lot of awareness about yourself as well, don't you?
Definitely. And it opens up a completely different mindset on the marketing aspect. So if I'm not only thinking about puppies versus older dogs or rescues, and instead you're thinking about busy single moms who have a 90-pound dog that they can't walk, well, that's a whole subset that you can help. Or you have people who are in their 80s who got a new puppy and they just don't have the same energy to train the dog. Well, that's a whole different group. So you have these different pockets of people, because the people are the ones who end up making the decision, not necessarily the dog, right? So then you can market and create offers and services that help those people specifically. You might have a different walking program for the one who can't walk the 100-pound dog versus somebody who's really athletic and fit and wants to go out and take their dog hiking, right? They're going to be completely different programs, but you're now not competing with the guy down the street. That person helps just general obedience. You help people who want to go climb Mount Everest with their dog. That's a completely different marketing campaign, and you've got a completely different group, and you're singled out. You're by yourself as one entity. You created a monopoly on that subset.
Yeah, yeah. What's your thoughts on, so, you know, again, typical generic dog trainer offers all the services, all the puppy classes, adult classes, adolescents, one-to-ones, and could literally capture anyone, like that broad person. If that type of person came to you then and asked for help with lead magnets and funnels and everything, what's kind of the process? Because my gut is immediately to go, well, we need to pick an area of focus. We can't do it all. How
Definitely.
do you even...
I was talking to a trainer, the other day. He was mentioning how he wanted to do virtual. He was doing board and train. He's doing in-person. He wants to do groups on the weekend and all these things. And I said, what are you doing a lot of right now? And he said, board and trains. He was like, that's what pays the bills, but I want to do these other things because the other trainers in the areas are offering these other things. And I said, okay, have you figured out the board and train? And he goes, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like, are you worried every month about getting clients in the board and train? He goes, yeah, it's like my main focus. And I said, cool, then don't move on to the next thing. I think most trainers will try to do everything because they're trying to diversify their pot, which is fine. And that makes sense when you're big enough to do so. But when you're starting out, you got to focus on one thing, get it so good that you no longer have to think about it, or you can hire somebody else to manage everything and you just come in as the hero to save the day. And then you move on to the next thing, right? So if your board and train is doing really, really well and you're no longer thinking about it, your ads are running great, you're getting plenty of referrals, testimonials, it's almost on autopilot, then you can start running virtuals in your spare time. And then those get really good. And then you start doing in-person weekend group classes type thing. But I think most people just do too much all at once and they haven't figured out any of those one pieces. And entrepreneurs do this all the time. We bounce around from different ideas thinking, oh, ads will work. It's not really working. I'm kind of stressed with this. I don't know enough. Let me go learn about it. While I'm learning about it, let me go do social media. Well, now I've forgotten about the ads completely and social media is not working. So let me go run and try to make phone calls every day. The phone calls really suck because I'm getting rejected 100 times a day. Let me go back to ads. And we just go in this vicious circle where we haven't honed in and picked on anything. But if you stay the course on one thing long enough, you don't have to think about it anymore. Like people who are on a diet or people who start working out or just walking 10,000 steps a day, that just becomes a part of your life. You're not thinking about it anymore. And then you can focus on the other things. We only have so much brain power to put towards any new task at a given time. So get really good at it and then move on to the next thing. That's my advice for new dog trainers trying to figure out, or those who have a whole bunch of stuff. Like consolidate it into one big thing, get it really good, and then you can kind of branch off.
Yeah,
I feel like it could sound like we've totally given you all this information to say.
It sounds like we've slipped you a tenner or something, $10 for you to say that. But this is where it all comes back to strategy, doesn't it? And the importance of that strategy, because you can just like get a pin and put it in things and go like, I'm going to try a bit of that and try a bit of this. And it never has any kind of real bigger picture purpose. It's never going to work, is it? You're always going to just, like you say, go round in circles and end up, this is where people get overwhelmed with everything and step away from it, which is what we're trying to prevent.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly what ultimately we did in our businesses. We consolidated everything into one program, one offer, one sell. And
one business.
Well, yeah, one business now.
Together.
But yeah, essentially, it's one program that we don't really have to think about. It sells itself, and that generates. And we've talked about it before, but that generated like 90K within 10 months because it was just all of our focus on that one thing and delivering it really well. So then every time an inquiry comes in now, we're just like, yeah, it's just this program. And then as we've grown bigger, we've incorporated new programs. So now we're doing a lot more of Trained for You. But we've got the space to do that because this one just ticks over without us thinking about it. And we're kind of, I wouldn't even say like we're massively well known for it in the local area, but because we know it, the confidence level is so high on it because it's just worked. Why, do you know what I mean? Like you don't have that same fear, do you? So you don't feel like you need to go out and, because that's ultimately where it comes from, isn't it? It's fear. It's fear of it not working. So you're going to try a million other things instead, all at the same time.
Right. And to give yourself even a better competitive advantage, if you and Joe Schmo down the street are doing the exact same thing, you're offering obedience, essential manners, reactivity training, puppy courses, whatever it is, but you say, I'm only going to focus on the puppy courses or the puppy training. Well, they're split into 800 baskets. You've got one basket and you're protecting that basket at all costs. So people who have puppies go, okay, I could get all of this over here or this one guy who's really specific on puppies. I'm going to go to him because He knows exactly what he's doing. And then maybe I'll go check out them later when my puppy's older. So you get all of the new people, and then you get that so good that then you can offer them the adolescence package where the puppy's now older and now they have different problems, right? So it gives you a competitive advantage if people listening needed more of a reason not to diversify and go all over the place.
Yeah, it's so true. And again, when you logically think about it again, so from your lead magnet and marketing company now, I just don't see how it could ever work when you're trying to do all of these things. Like with that example you were saying about the board and train and the birch and everything else. How confusing is that to a potential client? Because ultimately you are trying to tap into every single thought process that person has got, which is impossible.
Definitely.
I really get stuck on it.
It's a lot for... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I get so stuck because I don't know how it's possible, but we all think it's doable.
Yeah. And this is one of the best exercises that you could possibly do. Pick dog training in general, let's make it a little more niche. Potty training. Write down all the things someone would have to do in order to be successful with potty training. And I mean, like, set a timer for 10 minutes and write down anything that comes to mind. Okay, they have to have a good schedule. They have to have a good routine. They have to have water and food intake measured. Like all of these other things. And you write all of this down, then try to do the next thing. And say, okay, well, and we're going to teach loose leash walking. Write down everything they would need to learn. They have to know how to hold the leash. If you're doing clicker training, you have to know how to use a clicker, what treats to use, how to find the right reinforcement, what the environment is, the timing, all of these other things, reward schedules. Like, they're going to have such a massive list. Now ask someone to do both those things at the exact same time. They're going to get so overwhelmed. And you can't create a really good, strong service if you're trying to do both of those at the same time. It'd be much easier to say, okay, I'm just going to do the potty training. I'm going to get that really good. I'm going to make a lead magnet for it. I'm going to make an initial service offer for it. And then I'm going to make a follow-up offer, because people who buy from me once are more likely to buy from me a second time. So I want to help them implement the strategies even better. And then once that's fully fleshed out, then you move on to the next thing. Like, Apple didn't come out with the computer, the phone, and the iPod all at once, I don't think. I think they came out with the iPod first, right? And then they came out with the phone, and then they came out with the computer. They came out with these other things later on as they got better, and then multiple iPads, and then the Apple Vision Pro, and all of these other things, because they're at such a massive scale. I think people, trainers specifically, look at those big businesses, like, oh, they have all these different services. That's not how they started. They started out with one person going out, answering one specific question, and then growing from there because people asked for it. Do one thing until people ask you for the next thing.
Yeah. And another example of that is like Dyson with the vacuums. They started with vacuums. Now they do hair dryers and hair wraps and what else? All sorts of things, don't they, Dyson?
Yeah.
And if they'd have started with that, people would have gone, yeah, I might get a vacuum from there, but I don't know if that's really going to be any good. But because it was like, this is the all singing, dancing vacuum that everybody needs.
Actually, that is a good example, because I think there's a fear again of, I'm only going to be known for puppies. But when you diversify into other things, like, I don't know, your adolescence and your reactivity or whatever it may be, I'm only known for puppies. But like you say, you build on it and you've got the chance to upsell them into a bigger program or that longer term relationship. But yeah, like with Dyson, everybody would arguably still say, I know them for vacuums. But that hasn't put me off buying a hairdryer from them. Well, I personally don't have one.
I've got a hairdryer from them. It's very good.
It wouldn't put me off. I just don't, just because I know them as vacuums, it's like, well, yeah, you do these other products as well, but that's your core product.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
No. There's no police involved in any of this.
Right. There's no rules of business.
Yeah,
you can do anything you want.
Because that's the other fear, isn't it? That people go, oh my gosh, if I choose this thing and then I don't like it or it doesn't work, then what? Well, change it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Definitely. And don't go all in until you know that it works. Like, when I have an idea, I then post it on almost immediately. I'm like, all right, let me go post this, see what people think of it. If it's a bad idea, at least I know and I can move on with my life. If I spend 2 months building out this entire program, filming courses, making all of this stuff, and then I bring it to market and people go, that's not really what I needed or what I wanted. Well, now I just wasted a whole bunch of time. And I feel like it didn't work in the first place, right? You have to start and then fix it later. It's much better to start not perfect and then work on it over time than try to make it perfect and never begin with.
Well, that's really weird. Oh my God, this episode is just... So this morning we were listening to another podcast and the advice on that was take messy action, which is exactly that, isn't it? People are so hung up on being absolutely perfect. And in an ideal world, we all want to be perfect with everything, but it puts you off actually starting to do it, doesn't it? So we get a lot of people who want to start some sort of online membership or course or something. And it's like all of this, oh, the filming, I haven't got a good backdrop. I don't know if the content's exactly right. I don't know this, I don't know that. And it's like, just start something and then you can always add to it and make it better.
Yeah, that's it. It's that messy action with a caveat of stop and think a little bit. So don't jump straight into doing.
Yes.
So we've started implementing this recently, haven't we? Because we're all the same, aren't we, as entrepreneurs? You read a book and you go, oh, shiny new thing. I need to try that and implement that into the business. That could be awesome. I think a big one for dog trainers at the moment is passive income. I see that a lot where everyone's really intent on trying to build courses so they don't, I don't know if it's like they don't have, but they want that passive income.
They want an additional income stream because there's only one
of
of them and there's only so much you can do in that time, isn't it? And they want something
there seems to be a
happening.
reluctance about wanting to bring other people into the business and do training. Or, do you know what I mean? Like actually have a team. So yeah, this passive income seems really shiny object syndrome. But it's so important to actually just stop and think, like write it down on a Post-it note or something, stick it on your fridge and let it just cement and fester for the next few days. Have a little think about it, then take the messy action of, like you said, post it to your group of people, like to your peers. If you're in a mastermind or a coaching network or whatever it may be, ask your peers to give you honest feedback on what it is and be ready to receive the information that comes back to you, because you think it's a brilliant idea, don't you? We all do it. You have those like moments in the shower or something, or when you're walking the dog and it's like, oh, light bulb moment, genius idea, let's do this. I was like, no, actually, that was shit.
But also, not only ask your peers, ask your audience, because they're the people that are going to potentially buy it from you. And if they don't like the idea, like you said earlier, Michael, if they don't like it, then it's a waste of everybody's time and effort anyway.
And if you really need a way to monetize your ideas, this is one of the best things that you could do. Let's say when I'm making a course, I'll make like 10 to 30% of that course and ask if people want to prepay it. They're like, oh, you can get an early discount if you pre-order it. That's what I meant to say, pre-order it. If nobody buys it, then I stop right there. If a whole bunch of people buy it, okay, now I can finish the rest of the course. And I'm marketing it with that in the message. Hey, this is not done yet, but I want to give people the opportunity to test it out. Let me know what questions they have so I can make it better. So if you market it in that way, that's a much better way to do it. But I started my dog training business with courses. And so for those who are thinking about it and they're like, maybe I shouldn't start a course now. Courses are fine. Only if you, one, understand who your person is and what their problems are. And two, if you can make it so good that it can stand alone, but don't leave it alone. So I made an obedience course, a manners course, a reactivity course, loose leash walking, puppy, got all these different courses. And I tried to sell them individually and they didn't do as well. I put them all together, just like we were talking about earlier in consolidating. I put them all together into a university and I added it just as a bonus to my private coaching, which made it 10 times better. Because now during my private coaching, I could say, hey, did you watch episodes 1 through 10 of the course? No, I didn't watch it. Well, let's cancel our session this week because you didn't do the homework from last week. Go do that, and then we can meet. So it kept them accountable, gave them more resources and ways to implement. And it just made it easier for me as a business owner to run the business knowing that people are going to be more successful in the end. So if you don't know who your target market is and who you're trying to help, you can't make a good course anyway. And if you're trying to just sell the course to have passive income, it's going to come across that way. Right? They're going to be like, this person just doesn't want to meet with me. They're just giving me some fluff. Now, you could give away part of your course for free and then upsell it. You can do something like that. And there's so many different things you can do with a course, but make it so good that it could stand alone and then don't leave it alone.
I really like the idea, though. I know you put it together as a bundle because that was more effective, but there's no reason why people can't just start with one thing like loose lead walking and create a little, just, I don't know, a 10-minute video on it so that it assists people on their one-to-one program with you. And then you can start building that and putting it together as a bundle. And there's your online course done for you. So the way of breaking it down like that, I think people think it's just a mountainous task to go, how do I start filming this course? Well, just little bits like that are going to help your existing one-to-one clients anyway, aren't they? And then you can just start building it and put it together.
Absolutely. I only put it together because it was all there. And I had made, I think it was 100 pieces of content per course. And you do not need to do that. It needs to be as helpful and as short and concise as possible. So 10-minute video might even be better than the 100 videos I did. I broke it down into about minute to 3-minute sections of explanations because I wanted to make it short and concise and people could go, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. Let me go here. And I did all that and it didn't work as well by itself. That's what I'm saying. But make it as short and concise as possible. If I were to go do it again, I would make them shorter. It's just a lot for someone to go through.
Yeah. And there's that
overwhelm. You get to a certain point, you're like, all right.
Yeah. And it's overwhelm, isn't it? It's just too much of it. People will literally switch off from it as well.
Yeah. Comes back to that customer journey again, doesn't it? And thinking about the customer, the end result, who's going to use it? How are they going to use it? Are they going to use it? Because again, depending on who you're marketing to, if you're marketing to busy professionals that have got no time and then you give them a course to go and watch, realistically, are they going to go and watch it?
Maybe not.
Depends how invested they are. But again, you've got to start thinking of these things and go, right, there's a majority here somewhere. But I do really like the idea, and it's something that we certainly do a lot of. If we're thinking about something, we'll start to seed it a little bit just in conversations and go, oh, this is coming up. This is coming up. If you're interested, register your interest here and just gauge it. Because then if you get no interest and you've got normally a warm-ish audience with some engagement, well, then you go, okay, if there's nothing, they don't want this. Whereas a lot of people go out and create the whole thing and then try and sell it.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
I got that feeling.
That's what I did.
That's why it's like 100 pieces of content.
Yeah. And it was like 6 months of work, not to scare anybody from making 100 pieces of content. But when you have no idea what you're doing, it takes a really long time. And so I would have been better if I just started off small, got it really good, and then grown from there. So that's what I'm trying to get across as my message here.
Yeah. I also like the idea of doing 10% of it, finding out if it's something people want, and then going, oh my God, I now need to make the rest of it. And there's some pressure there to do it. But that's good pressure, because if you're anything like us, we need that kick up the bum to actually action things sometimes.
Weirdos that thrive off of pressure.
Yeah. But at least it gets it done then, doesn't it?
I mean, deadlines make decisions. So if you say, hey, this is when I'm going to have the 10% done, and now people are expecting more, it's like, all right, well, now I gotta perform. I gotta do more, and it's got to be better than what it was. And you also get all of the questions that those people have. So it's really hard to sit in your room alone and write down all the questions somebody has, because you're not in their mind. You don't know what their life is like. So when people write in the comments of your course saying, hey, these are the questions that I have, awesome, now I can make a whole different video on it, or you can make a whole Q&A section on it. Or if it's in a community, you can do a live Q&A. Or if it's in person, just write down all the questions people have. I mean, I should have done that when I first started training dogs, because I've trained thousands of dogs at this point. And if I wrote down all the questions that every single person had, I'd have binders and like filing cabinets full of all these questions. And I'd have plenty of resources. So
yeah, we've got a Facebook group for our business coaching clients, which I think you're in now.
Yes.
And to get into that group, we ask people a question about what do they need basically in their business to make things better. So all of that gives us data to be able to then create, well, these podcasts and part of our coaching program as well. So it's thinking of ways that you can collate that information. So put polls out or ask questions. And, you know, if you've got a Facebook group, use it in that way as well to be constructive.
Absolutely.
Works really well.
Yeah. So what would you say? So on your client adventure map then, how many stops are on the map?
Oh,
stops, destinations,
Yeah.
X's.
It's really dependent on, I like to think of it as when you go camping, right? Like you have the parking lot, then you have a sign that says, go take this route, right? So maybe you go to the lake, maybe you go up the hill, maybe you go to the mountain, whatever it may be. So it doesn't need to be that picturesque. You just need to figure out, where are my pool of people, which I call the parking lot. Like they're all just standing around waiting. They don't know they have a problem, or they don't know where to go, and they think they have a problem, but they don't know what the solution is. And so you're the guide that comes up and says, hey, you can take option A. That's going to take you over there where you can get a free resource. Or you can take option B, where we can go sit and have a conversation at a picnic table. And that's more of you coaching them through it. And then you could say, hey, we're going to get in this car and we're going to go up to the top of the mountain. And that's going to be the done for you, where you're actually doing most of the work for them. Maybe you're training the dog for the majority of the part, and then you're just passing the leash and saying, hey, just ask them to sit and I'll give them the treat, or something like that, right? So you have these different avenues where they're doing the majority of the work, you're doing the work together, and then you're doing the majority of the work. But along that path, you can also get people to go from, well, they're doing the majority of the work, to working with you, to you doing it. Because people can go get the information anywhere, right? There's millions, I think billions of videos on YouTube on just dog training in general. So the information is available. It might not be tailored specifically for them and their needs, but it's there. It's the implementation that most people struggle with. So your goal is to find out, what are they struggling with trying to do it themselves, meet them there, because most people want to do things by themselves in the beginning. They go, I could figure this out. And it's an ego thing. So they want to go figure it out. And then you say, hey, you figured this out, or you've tried to figure this out. You're working on it, but there's some things you're still struggling with. Let me help you implement it a little bit better. And then you can move them up. Some people call it the value ladder, or your sales process in that way. So people are on social media. That's your parking lot. You go on social media and you say, hey, I have this free guide on teaching your dog how to peacefully walk with you in 3 easy steps. They try to do it on their own, right? It's a simple guide. It's got 3 steps on it, 3 pages, and it just lays out the instructions that you would tell somebody if you were with them. At the end of the book, you say, hey, if you want a more in-depth guide, you can watch this YouTube video. So you make a YouTube video that goes along with the guide. And then at the end of the video, you say, hey, if you want to work with me, there'll be a link down in the description. They click on the link in the description. It takes them to a page where you can walk them through the 3 steps. Same 3 steps, 3 different versions of the process. So there we only have social media, PDF, YouTube, working with you. That's 4 steps in your process. You could have a zillion steps in the process, right? But trying to make it as simple as possible is where I would start, especially if you're new at thinking in this type of linear progress. Someone's where they're at. Where do I want to get them to? And what problems along the way can I solve for them? And how can I make it easier for them without adding time or adding sacrifice? If someone has to give up 10 years of their life to fully train their dog, well, no one's going to do that. If they can give up a weekend and get 90% of dog training in their mind so they can go and do it on their own at their own time, that's much better than 10 years of trying to figure it out. So that's what you're trying to sell, is the implementation. And then the sacrifice. If someone has to give up their relationship and force their dog to do things that they don't want to do, and now their dog is like a robot, shut down, ears pinned back, tail never wagging, well, that's no fun. But if instead we flip it, now they have more personality, they're jumping around, they're excited to work with us, they're thinking of their own problems and solutions, well, that's a much better relationship that someone can have with their dog. And if you help them do that, the dopamine they get from hanging out with their dog is directed towards you as well. Oh, well, this person helped me do this. So then they recommend them to all their friends, and that's how we grow a dog business.
So simple.
Look at that. Says it all in 5 minutes.
There you go. In a nutshell, that's it.
I like it. I like it. So what does your dog training business look like for you now then? Because obviously you've got the 2, and we feel your pain of running 2 businesses, but it's all good fun.
A lot, yeah.
So what does the dog training business look like for you now?
I do around 2 to 5 clients a month, and that's about it. So I cap it off very low. And that's because I want to give them as much attention as I possibly can while I'm doing these other, not side quests, but the other business and homeschooling my son and all of these other things. So right now I'm still doing a lot of virtual with the courses added in as a bonus. And I will meet with people if they happen to be in the area to answer some simple questions, or I'll travel out to them. A lot of times what happens is they just need a nudge in the right direction. And I noticed this when I first started offering the virtual training. I didn't have it down pat. I didn't have all the resources that were necessary. And so a gentleman with his, it was a 3-month-old German Shepherd, started doing some training, and we were doing leash walking. And I was explaining everything. I had a simplified version of the course, and he was going through it, but he was still not getting it. And so I went out to him and I said the exact same things that I was saying in the virtual and in the courses. And he finally got it, because he was like, oh, I thought it was something different. Like I thought there was something I was missing, and it wasn't. He didn't believe in what I was telling him he had to go do, and he wasn't following through with it. So that's a perfect example, again, of that implementation. So right now I'm doing a lot of virtuals and working with just a few people per month so I can give them 100% of my time. And I'm actually working on a new offer, which has gotten me sitting down and writing down a whole boat. I think I wrote down, it's like 160 different problems someone could run into. And I've been dwindling it down to about 15 features of a big offer that'll be a couple $1,000s per offer. So that'll be coming down the line in terms of dog business. But that's a great exercise for people who don't know where to start. Write down all the problems, figure out what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do to help someone solve their problems, and then package it all together in one.
Amazing. I love it. And how are you finding the virtual side of it?
It's quite the niched pocket. What I mean by that is there are some people who take to it lovingly. They absolutely adore it. And I've noticed that with the younger generations, they love it. And some generations and some individuals who are just not tech savvy, it's a real obstacle for them. And it's more painful than they're willing to go through, especially if they paid a lot of money. They're like, well, I can't figure out this Zoom thing and I don't want to do it. And that's totally fine. Those are just not the people that I'm going to work with. There are people in their area that'll work with them. The virtual for me gives it more flexibility. I give them the recordings of the sessions. I give them different resources. We can, pull up their training videos. I have them record all their training and send it to me so I can review in real time. And then we watch it in the session that we do together, which is about an hour session once a week. And so we go over all the things that they're doing wrong and we fix them and work through it. So if you know what you're doing, if you're a little tech savvy, or you at least spend time figuring out what you need to do to help somebody get along, like you don't need to be perfect at Zoom or any of the video softwares. You just need to know the features that can help you teach. That's about it. And you just need to be one step ahead of the person who's struggling with it. So if they're like, I can't figure out how to get on Zoom, go to Google, how do you get on Zoom? Either send them a video or you get on the phone with them and say, okay, click this button, click this button, click this button. And I've done that plenty in the beginning to help people get to where we need to get to the resources. Because people, again, that implementation is huge. If it's too difficult for someone to start, they're not going to. And that's a big problem.
And your programs are they're high ticket, aren't they?
Yes. Yes. A couple $1,000s per. And this new program is going to be closer to 10 to 15,000 for a month of training.
I love that.
Ooh.
How many people go, oh my God, there is no way I can charge. I hate the word charge. There's no way I can charge that much.
There are a lot of trainers, and my advice to them is always just double your prices and see what happens. Because that was the advice I was given. I wanted to do more podcasts. I wanted to do more marketing and focus on the other things. And a mentor of mine said, you don't have the time because you're not charging enough. It's like, you can't possibly focus the right amount of energy in the business because you're struggling every day trying to get the sale. So if you made more money, you could worry less and focus on these other things, which means you can provide more free value for other people. I was talking to a trainer the other day, and he wants to offer free courses for those who can't pay for it. I said, that's fine, but you have a business to run. Like, I'm all for helping more people, but if I don't have any money, I can't help more people. If you have a lot of money, you can help more people. So for him, I said, double your prices, see what happens. If it doesn't work this month, okay, you got to do some adjustment. You can always A and B test, but odds are you're going to get the same complaints of people saying that's too much money, or, oh my God, that's a steal. I love that. That's fantastic. And then you can put your focus on the free stuff. But if you think your services aren't worth, one, the price that you currently have, then you need to fix your offer. But if you think it's not worth, let's say, doubling your price, then I would fix the offer, because your offer should be so good. Like the offer that I have right now, in my mind, it's like $30,000. Like that's what it should be worth. But I'm going to make it only $10,000 or $15,000 because the conviction that I'll have when I'm talking to someone is absolutely outrageous. They'll be like, well, okay, it's $10,000. Like, yeah, it could be $50,000. This is like an absolute steal. You're getting something that nobody else offers, right? And think about anytime you've bought something and you're, oh my God, it's this price? That's crazy. You go to Costco, you go to BJ's, Sam's Club. You're like, oh my God, a pack of bananas for 50 cents? That's crazy. Even something that small, the value outweighs the price considerably. And so you have no problem purchasing it, and people have no problem buying it when your offer is that good. So if your offer isn't that good, this is an Alex Ramosi thing. He says you might just be not that good. Right? Where in your mind you're like, well, it might just be that limiting factor where you aren't what you think you are. So if that's your limiting factor, then you just need to go, okay, what can I add to this offer to make it better? What other problems can I solve for people? And I did not understand this for so long. And then I read like 9 marketing books in a row within the course of like 3 weeks. And it finally clicked. I was like, oh, that's what they're talking about. So I'm gonna bring this up now. Instead of just thinking about the problems that they have currently, when someone solves a problem, they end up having another problem. So if somebody's trying to get their dog to walk nice on leash, let's go back a step. Somebody's dog is fat. Well, they want to exercise their dog, but their dog doesn't walk nice on leash. So let's teach them to teach their dog to walk nice on leash. Cool. Now they've done that. Well, they can get their dog out and they can start burning some energy and some calories so that their dog isn't fat anymore. But now their dog's reactive to other people because every time they go out, they see other people and they get so excited. Well, that's a new problem. So now I need to solve that problem in teaching the dog manners. Well, now that we're going out more, I'm getting bored of walking around the block. So I want to take my dog on hikes and we want to go do other things. Well, now I got to teach my dog how to be off leash. So you see how there's this natural progression of everything that you're doing with your dog. So once you solve this one problem and you've created this new solution, there's another problem that needs to be solved. That's what that massive offer can be. So if you're only solving potty training, well, now that they have potty training down, what's the next thing that they need to solve? And I'll let the brain start kicking there for everybody listening.
I love this.
Yeah,
so
we've literally done a podcast episode between us on this very thing.
This topic specifically.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, again, coming back to the fear, there's a fear of, if I create a program, how do I fill it if they've only got a loose lead walking issue? So it kind of fits perfectly around that, actually.
Yeah, it's such a breath of fresh air, actually, talking to you, because it is so, and you can see, can't you? Like already I'm hearing people's thoughts wherever you are in the world going, surely, because there will be people out there that will think this, but like, surely we, all of you out there who are charging, is that word again, a high ticket, are not thinking about the dogs. What about the people who genuinely can't afford that and now you're alienating them because you can't help their dogs? How did you combat that thought process? Because it's all there, isn't it? We all have it.
Yeah, it's the implementation. So when it comes to, like when I first started, I offered a $400, an $800, and a $2,000 offer. And my goal was to try to sell the $2,000 offer as much as possible because I'm starting off in business. I need some capital to get things running. And so the 400 is what I sold the most of. But unfortunately, the quality of clients at the $400 price level was not great. So they didn't get as great results because they didn't invest as much time. The $800 offer, people invested more time, but it wasn't the same as people who paid $2,000. And for $2,000, they got 32 private sessions. That's one every 2 weeks for an entire year and then some. So the people who did that were really invested. They had multiple dogs. They had multiple questions and problems that they wanted to solve. So while I was doing that, I was offering free content online, YouTube and TikTok and all of these other things. However, the people who watch the TikToks and the YouTube don't implement the same as the guy who pays the $2,000. So although, yes, I want to help those people as much as possible, I can give them everything, the whole kit and caboodle. And at the end of the day, they might not implement it because there isn't enough investment. How often do we buy a book and don't read it? It's like, well, the book was $10. Or if you get a free book, you put it on the counter, you don't do anything with it. Transversely, if it was a $100 book, a textbook in college, you're probably going to read the whole thing, or at least a majority of it and get everything you need. I think one reason, I know college is expensive for other reasons, but one of those reasons is because you have to have some type of pain associated with it. And you'll see a difference for those that went to college. If you paid for college yourself versus having it subsidized, someone else paid for it. If you paid for it completely by yourself, you took it a little more seriously. I graduated in 3 years. I had a great GPA because I was paying it for it myself. Those who go to college for free, they take some time. Maybe they do 5 years. They don't know what they want to study right away. It's this innate nature of human beings that the more effort we put into something, the more we get out of it. If I put $5,000 into a training program, I'm going to get $5,000 or more dollars worth out of it, right? So that's what I would say for those of you who want to help people for free, make them give you something, $1 even. That's a little bit more of an investment than free. But you can offer those free services, especially in that client adventure map, in that lead magnet form. You don't want to give up so much of your time for those who aren't going to give up their time. So you say, hey, here's a PDF, 10 steps on how to do this. If you don't do it, then you're not going to get the result. And that's the end of that. But if you do it, you will get the result. And then if you want, you can move on to the next step. Or you can offer a free community until it gets big enough to where then you charge people. You can do it that way as well. And then all those people get grandfathered in where they're still free. You could do that as well if you really, in your heart, you're like, I have to do something for free. That's what social media is for.
Yeah. Oh, this perceived value thing is so big with us that we're just, and you can relate it to so many different industries as well, can't you? Because arguably YouTube, you can learn to do absolutely anything. So forget dog training for a minute. You can learn to build a whole house on YouTube. But who has got the time, inclination, and drive to build your own house? There are some people that do it, some crazy people that aren't builders that actually could. But who realistically is going to do that? You're just going to get a builder in to do it for you, aren't you? So like this is that where that trained for you type aspect that we're now bringing in that we would never have brought in at the beginning. But we're starting to see that people need that sometimes. Like we were only having a conversation earlier with somebody that said, oh yeah, I know you dog trainers, but I want someone to do it for me. We can do that for you. But it's not a service we outwardly advertise, is it? Because we don't want everybody to think that we can do it for that. It has to be our choice about who we work with as well.
That's it. And our bread and butter is that program that works and just sells like off the shelf really. And you don't want to mess that up because it works really beautifully. So you then start implementing things a little bit hush-hush behind the scenes. And then we are, oh yeah, look, that works. Now you can start to, you're almost testing yourself.
Testing
like, do I like it? Do I really like it? Do I want to do this? I like doing it for people that I know and that we've built a relationship with. Do I want to go and put myself in a position then where I've got somebody's dog potentially for a long time and we don't get on and just no.
Yeah. And we've also built that initial relationship with those people who've done our program before. So we kind of know them and we know that like, we know they need the help, and B, we know that they would feed back with us like genuinely and honestly as well, which is really important.
Yeah. No, that perceived value is so important because it doesn't matter how good your marketing message is. It doesn't matter how good of a dog trainer you are. If the person receiving that message does not see the value in it, then they're never going to buy. And certainly kind of like going back to the price points of everything, you're always going to get kickback, aren't you, from everyone? Certainly your peers, I think, when you increase your fees, and family and friends, people who have nothing to do with your business at all. Like, who's going to pay? You charge how much for dog training? I'm like, you don't even have a dog. What would you even know about this? But anyway, but it is that perceived value, because ultimately, if everything was down to price decision, surely the dog industry, for training purposes anyway, should be fetching a lot higher than it is in terms of turnover. Because if everybody is that cost conscious and will only spend £30 an hour, seems to be the thing over here, £30 for a session, surely everyone would be rammed and wouldn't have to be worrying about leads because it's 30 quid. Yeah. But that's not the case. People are desperate for leads at £30 for an hour. So it's not price point, it's that perceived value. If somebody's not willing to give you £30, they don't see the value in what you're offering.
And if you are going into business, you're just starting, don't try to race to the bottom in price compared to your competitors. If someone's offering it for 1,000 and you're like, well, I'll do it for 800, and then they do a deal at 500, now you're at 300, you're just going straight to the bottom. And you can only do that with massive scale like Walmart or Costco or BJ's. You cannot do that as an independent person. If somebody's offering 1,000 and you offer 10,000, well, just by comparison, looking at the numbers, someone's going to go, they have to be better if they're charging that much, just by perceived value of it. Now, you do actually have to be better to charge that much. You can't be worse than they are and say, oh, well, that's my prices kind of thing. But I do think, I want to go back for a second. I do think there is a shift because so many people are trying to do an online community and courses and these other things because it's a trend. It's popular now to do. There is a vacuum, a black hole to speak of, where if you're willing to go out and personally do the training of the dog and then pass the leash off to them and help them just implement what the dog now knows, there is a pocket there for a particular trainer that's really good at doing that, that nobody is marketing to. Like the busy person who's like, I don't want to learn dog training. I've watched the videos and it's not for me. I just want the dog to be as great as possible without having to do any of that work. And maybe they need to know 10% of dog training, if that, to be able to manage and maintain behaviors for a long period of time. But there's definitely, I think, in the next 6 months to 12 months, a pocket that's going to form where people are going to jump on that. So if you can jump on it now while you're listening to this, you might get an advantage over the competition. Even if it's on the back end, you're doing it privately. You're saying, hey, people in the community are asking about it. Let me see if it's something I can test out and enjoy doing. Because if you don't enjoy it, then it's not worth a gazillion dollars.
I'm in love with this episode already.
We love you,
it's
Michael.
just amazing.
We love you. You just validated everything even more for us. Yeah. I feel like we need to get Michael on again.
Yeah,
I don't feel like we've even touched.
No, I feel like if we don't end this
episode.
episode soon, it'll be about 5 hours long. Which I know some people are doing, but maybe we'll break it down into several parts.
Yeah. Yeah. This is part one of Michael's episode.
Part 1 of 10.
Yeah. People got to leave a review and tell us if they want more.
Yeah, we've seeded it and now we need some feedback on it.
Fab. Well, before we officially wrap up then, because I feel like there is so many golden nuggets in that conversation, what would your top tip, or 3 top tips, if you will, be to the dog training community at the moment in terms of trying to achieve our vision, I suppose, of uplifting this industry?
Absolutely. I'll go back to what we started off with, which was marketing, sales, and operations. And we'll do it in the least exciting order first. So operations would be focusing on one thing specifically, get so good at it that nobody can attest to anything else besides the fact that you're amazing at what you do. And then try to systematize and automate as much as possible. You can outsource it. You can hire other people to do it. But first, get it down really, really well. And what I'm talking about is that client adventure map, where people are, where you want to get them to. Second, sales is you are worth more than what you think you are. And so value your time and access to you by charging what you are worth and maybe then some, because you have a perceived value of yourself, and other people, you can even ask them. You can say, hey, what do you think about me? And your friends and family will tell you that you're amazing. And then you say, but why? And you just keep asking them. And eventually they'll start talking about how you helped them and you've guided them and supported them through different things in their life. And you'll feel so much better. Then you can charge the price that you feel at that point. So definitely double your prices. That would be my best advice for everybody who's a dog trainer, because you're worth so much more. The skill set that you have is a dying art in some way, because everybody's just doing the generic thing. So if you do something particularly well, you should be compensated well for it. And last, marketing, same thing of the implementation and honing in on one area. So if you really like Facebook, start on Facebook. If you really like Instagram, start on Instagram. If you like TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is, just do something long enough to have enough information and data to change and correct your course of action. So if you're doing 100 days on Facebook posting, you need to know at the end of those 100 days, how many people engaged? Was it worth it? Did people opt in for things? Did they ask me questions? And really go in on it. Don't just, do it 50% and hope it works out. No, go 110%, post every day, post often, communicate with people, join groups, all of those things, and really try to master that one skill before you move on to the next. Anybody can clip up long form content into short pieces and put them all over the place, but to have something truly curated and helping those that need it is your superpower and will differentiate you from everybody else. So that's my marketing tip. Hone in on one thing, get really good at it, and then you can grow from there.
Love it.
Okay, so we're asking this question to everybody. What one person do you know that we should absolutely have on this podcast to help uplift the industry even further?
I love a thinking face.
Yeah, everybody really struggles with this answer because they're thinking of either lots of people or they're like, what person would actually, contribute to this mission?
Unfortunately, the name that comes to mind is no longer with us, which is very sad. His name is Dr. Stephen McKenzie. He's a wonderful, he invented or founded the program that I went to school to study animal science and canine training for. And he would have been the best person to have on in terms of just 50 years of training experience in business and so much. So he would have been fantastic. But I have to.
People can research about him though, can't they? If they want to find out.
Yes, he's got a few books out. Dog aggression, controlling aggression. He was a police dog handler for a number of years. He's absolutely fantastic, wonderful. He didn't write down as much as he should have. Like he had so much in his brain that when he would do lectures, he would just go off on tangents. And there was somebody dedicated, there was a teacher's assistant who just wrote down everything he said so that they could make a curriculum for it. Because he would just talk. And you'd be like, oh, we're talking about the Yerkes Dachshund Law. We're talking about this. We're talking about that. And he didn't want things to be different between classes. But I digress.
You can always get back to us and we can let everyone know. If
Definitely, I'll have to get you a list of names on different areas because there's a couple of people that do something particularly well. And I'm having a hard time picking one. But I'll let you know.
Absolutely. We await
I'll let
it.
you know. I'll let you know. Tune in next time.
Yeah, on the next episode. And then lastly, where can people find out more about you on both of your businesses?
Absolutely. So if you're looking for dog training, dogtrainingdone.com, D-O-N-E, dogtrainingdone.com is where I do my dog training services. And the caninebusinessbuilder.com is where I do all of the funnel building, website building, marketing, and other things for dog business owners.
Cool. We'll put all of those details in the show notes for everyone.
Wonderful.
Fab. Thanks for joining us today, Michael. Always lovely to see you.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. We will definitely have to do this again at some point in the future if the demand is high enough.
We'll create it.
Yeah, we will. Create a buzz. Get you back on. And I think we'll just get you back on anyway because we love you. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See ya.